Rebel Yell podcast on the Trib Live High School Sports Network. We are here in thanks in part to Edgar Snyder and Associates. They've been a great sponsor of all high school sports, especially here this spring, helping us bring the games to you. Edgar Snyder and Associates, stay local. They've been helping injured people since 1982. If you need their help, edgarsnyder.com. WPIAL Diamond Team of the Week. We're going to be talking softball this week. We're through basically the first round of the playoffs for both baseball and for softball, with a lot of action coming up next week. The championships are in 2 weeks, but next week, very, very busy throughout the week with the baseball and the softball quarterfinals and semifinals. One team that is part of the action heading into Monday's quarterfinals in WPL Class 2A softball, the Riverside Panthers. Their now veteran coach, Geri Lynn Cummings, is kind enough to join us. Her friends call her GL. We'll call her Geri Lynn. We're not in friend status yet. Maybe at some point, maybe by the end of this podcast.
Maybe.
We'll see. My first Geri Lynn on any of the podcasts, so that's kind of neat. First of all, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Don. I appreciate that.
So Geri Lynn, any backstory to the name?
I'm named after my dad. His name's Geri, and his dad's name was Geri.
Oh,
so whenever they were having a girl, they kept the Geri but spelled it feminine. So, and then Lynn's my middle name after my aunt. So my mom didn't want me called Geri. So that's where I go by both the first and the middle name. And then throughout my childhood, it was just, my dad always called me GL. So that's kind of where people picked that up at.
So were you an only child, or did they not want to risk not having a boy? So they,
I don't know. I know that answer. I'm not an only child. I have 3 siblings. There's 4 of us, but I'm the oldest. So I guess they just got it out of the way in the beginning and just rolled with.
Yeah. And I think that's most people that want to continue a name, whether it's a junior or not, will usually, go with the first name, and then it becomes a nickname because there's confusion when there's more than one Geri in the house. So
correct.
Yeah, that's always been a head scratcher. So let's talk some softball. You guys having yourself quite the season now, headed to the quarterfinals again. Victory number 9 came on Thursday, knocking off Brentwood in the first round, and we'll talk about that game specifically. Let's talk about your tenure. I mentioned during our post-game interview that you never want to be the person to follow the legend. You were that person. But now you're 10 years later, a decade later, going strong. Was there some nerves in taking that position?
I think I was too young at the time to be nervous. I had always wanted to be a head coach. So after assisting under Coach Pam and volunteering and assisting and all that stuff, and then whenever she retired, it was just natural, I guess. So it was always one of my ambitions. So it wasn't. I don't think there was nerves. Following her, I just kind of feel like whoever's going to follow her, I don't think is ever going to get to what she did. You know what I mean? She coached for so many years and so many accomplishments for the Riverside softball tradition and program. So, to me, it's just like, just take it over and do what you can and go from there.
We lose so many great young coaches in this game just because of, and really all high school sports, to be honest, because of the demands of the job. It's now year-round with all the off-season programs and off-season stuff you have to be involved with, and nobody is getting rich in coaching high school sports. So, family comes and young men, young women who have established themselves as pretty good coaches have to either step away for good or step away at least for some time. Now that you've got a decade under your belt, I mean, when you took over, is it something you saw yourself doing for a long time, or that
Um,
was
I wasn't really sure. I have a question. Is this being going to be edited? Because someone's pounding on my door right now. Is this live? Like
yeah,
live? My
okay,
son wasn't even in kindergarten yet. So whenever the opportunity came about when Coach Pam retired, I just went ahead. I put in for it. I thought it was the right time, but I figured we're going to give it a shot, whether or not I could juggle, motherhood and family and softball at the same time. But I have a really supportive husband and supportive parents and family and stuff that help with the kids and everything. So I felt like the hardest years were in the earlier years whenever
sure.
the kids were so tiny and young. And I just kind of figured if it was meant to be, it was meant to be. And, I'd stick around for as long as I could. I figured by the time my kids got into high school, I would know by then if it was something that I wanted to keep doing or not. So, because
Well,
I coached for 6 years before Josie, my oldest, became a freshman. So I had enough years in at that point to figure out if it was something I wanted to keep doing or not.
and the answer is yes, I assume.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, so there were some rough years
Yeah.
early on. I'm not. I hope I'm not bringing up bad memories here, but
No. Actually, they're really fun memories because I probably had some of the most coachable players in those really tough years. I had a great group of kids. Just the culture around here with softball, our rec organization at the time, when Coach Pam was a coach, there was a group of parents that had started Fast Pitch in the rec league organization, and those were the kids that were very successful through the end of her, the back half of her career. In 2013 when we went
right,
to states and WPIALs and all that stuff. Um, and then there was like no one else picked it up after some of those parents of that group of kids. So there was a time period where there was a lot of Riverside rec league softball players, but they were all slow pitch players. So whenever I started coaching, I had only had 3 girls, I believe, ever play travel ball, and they decided to not play travel once they became freshmen or sophomores in high school. So the majority of my kids were slow pitch players my first few years, and the majority of them, if they had played travel, it was with limited experience. But they were really enjoyable kids. Like we had some of the best years, just because they had great at it. They wanted to be there, and for them, it was just about coming out and doing a sport that they loved. It was truly a passion, and they just put in all the time, and we worked with them, and they really developed and grew within the time that they were with us, their 4 years. But it was just, we didn't have that rec league support. So then in 2012, Jamie Zona and Jamie's my assistant.
mm-hmm.
She played with me in high school. Her maiden name's Connor, Jamie Connor. She graduated in 1996, so she was on the state championship and or state runner-up team and WPIAL championship team. And her daughters were really young at the time, and she just said, would you want to try starting off fast pitch again in the rec league? And I said, sure. So the two of us kind of, with the rec league, who already was established and stuff like that, we kind of took a division and it became fast pitch. And then that's where her daughters, Samantha Rosenberger and Danny Rosenberger, are her daughters. And Sam's still coaching in college now because of it. But, we planted that seed whenever they were little, and then it's kept up with it ever since. So, and I think now the fruits of that labor are starting to pay off.
Yeah, and they have been. I mean, post COVID, the 2020 season getting wiped away. You guys have now had 5 winning seasons in 6 years, and over the last 4 years now, including this season, making a little noise in the WPIAL playoffs. So that's got to be kind of neat. That struggles. You stick to it. You make some changes. You get the fast pitch rec leagues going, and all of a sudden it's taken off, and they're having pretty darn good success.
Yeah, it's kind of neat that the girls, pretty much starting in 2021, because we got knocked out, wiped out with COVID in 2020. But
Yeah.
They just started really making an impression within the section and playoffs. And even though we were knocked out some of the early rounds of playoffs back then, it didn't really matter because we just knew the strength of the team. And the girls under them just kept building with that. So they just kept, more and more seeing that, wanting to do that, wanting to be there and building with that.
Yeah, to the playoff teams since COVID, losing in the first round in 21 and 22, reaching the quarterfinals in 23, 24. It sounds like the NBC chimes. And then last year reaching the Final Four. It's like, you just keep building and building and building.
Yes, yeah. So, and we've noticed that, with the girls that I think they see it, they aspire to it, and every year is almost like a preface or a stepping stone for the next year. And they just want to work that because their confidence is up, their expectations are up, and they believe in themselves and they know that they can do it. So, yeah, it's been a really fun ride with these group of girls over the last 4 to 5 years.
And it's great to see too what you and your staff are preaching. While it didn't manifest itself into great success record wise early on, a lot of times you may be preaching the right things, but if the results aren't what the kids want, the kids get a little frustrated. Now that the kids are seeing the fruits of their labor, so to speak, and having success, not only in the regular season, but into the postseason.
Right.
Again, that's just going to kind of make it easier for your message to be to not land on deaf ears.
Right, for sure.
We're talking to Lynn Cummings, head coach of the Riverside Panthers softball team on their way to the quarterfinals. Tall task ahead to take on Chartiers Houston. Kind of an all-in-the-family thing. That's another thing we talked about. You have 2 daughters on the team. There are 2. You also have a niece, Emma Stockman, on the team. There is also 2 Drakes, Stevie Drakes, Addison Drake, who are a key part of the Panthers' success this year. And you also have Eva and Addie Yowie as part of the program, too. So I asked you, I thought it was interesting. I said, that's great, familiarity and all that stuff, but there's sibling rivalries and stuff like that. If there was any extra drama. But you said no. You said that they're all pretty good about it.
Yeah, they're all pretty good about it. The only drama that we might get from the sibling rivalry is who's wearing whose ball pants that day, or who took whose hair bow or hair tie or something. It's one of those minute things. It has nothing to do with the game. They play best with each other, so it's pretty neat.
The other thing you mentioned that I got a kick out of is the fact that and how the game has changed. The modern ball player, something when you were playing 3 decades ago was not on your list to do. But, nowadays you have players that, while they're going all out when they're at practice and during games, they have other priorities as well.
They sure do. If you ask any spring varsity softball coach, they will tell you the week of prom is the absolute worst. And I feel like maybe the demands of prom and the expectations of prom have maybe changed definitely and amped up over the years. But I was talking to Coach Pam on the phone the other day, and something came up about prom week because we just had our prom last weekend. And she said, "Oh, I hate prom week." So, it was just as bad for her at that time than it was for us, just because hey, girls are going to be girls. So
Yeah.
It is what it is. And it's part of the role.
But now as a mom, it's a lot different than when you were going to prom.
Yeah, for sure. You never thought you'd get a little bit soft and make exceptions for things if someone had to leave a few minutes early to get here or there for a certain appointment. But I guess in the end, it is what it is. So
30 years ago, not to age you at all, but 30 years ago, you were part of a championship run, as you mentioned earlier, 1996.
Yeah.
You guys beat Carmichael's. That was your freshman year, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, you guys beat Carmichael's in the championship. What were, when you look back at those great seasons, and really that. And I'll touch on the legacy of Riverside softball, but those great seasons that you wore the uniform as a player, that was during the Amy Alloy days, weren't they?
So when I was a freshman, her older sisters, the twins, Nicole and Natalie, were juniors. Amy was 3 years younger than me, so I
Okay.
played with all three of them. I was in the middle.
Yeah.
So our 1996, the twins were the juniors, and Natalie Loy and Jordan Herzog were our pitchers.
So later on, when you were a senior, Amy was becoming the dominant pitcher, Hall of Fame pitcher that she would become. Were you out in the outfield when she pitched
Yep.
picking daisies?
Yeah, I was in the outfield for that 16-inning game that lasted 4 hours or something like that, in like 100-degree weather that knocked us out of the state semifinals, I think it was.
And probably not one ball hit to you, was there?
I think the game-winning ball from the other team landed somewhere in left center or something like that. But no, I don't think there was any defensive action that day at all. Both pitchers were just mowing down both sides the whole day.
You know, the biggest since the network started many years ago, you were probably your senior year. Um, the biggest change in covering high school softball happened probably about a decade ago when they moved the rubber back and made offense a bigger part of the game, made defense a much more important part of the game. You'd do playoff games. I remember broadcasting playoff games, and you were just praying for a run because the pitching was so dominant
Yeah.
back in the day. I haven't talked to anybody that said that wasn't a good thing. I mean, do you agree that compared to now as a coach, compared to when you were playing, that the game is much more demanding on all aspects of the game to be sharp?
Yeah, I think you're I think it's neat whenever you have some really good competitive games and it's 4-3 or 4-2 or
Right.
5-2. Back in the day, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in 1996, our WPIAL championship game, I think we won 2-1, maybe.
2-1, yeah.
Like you kind of knew if the other team scored 1 or 2 runs, you might have been done for. And it doesn't feel like that way now. You know what I mean? You feel like there's a little bit of life. I mean, if you think how much harder bunt coverage would be now, you know what I mean, compared to back in the day, because you're three, I don't know. I feel like you couldn't play up as much because you knew.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like you could just the amount of distance that you want to play up or back, all that changes just with whether or not the other team's going to hit the ball or not. There's just a little bit of a difference tactic and mentality behind that.
Well, and there were back then a lot of slap hitters. And I'm not saying that there aren't anymore. You still occasionally see it, but really that's most of the hitters, they dig in there and they're looking to rip the ball.
Yeah. The art of small ball is pretty interesting. I think like you have some teams that just don't even think about it, and then other ones that live off of it. And I don't know, it probably just comes down to philosophy. I have had a lot of people compliment our team over the past few years over just the way, I don't know, almost the way the girls execute the small ball. Cause I think it also comes down to trusting your players. Like, can they get a bunt down?
Yeah.
And if you practice that and believe in that and everything. So I don't know, it adds a different dimension for sure. Moving that mound back a few feet.
Yeah. The thing that I said afterward was it was such a fundamentally strong performance by your team. They obviously had the big hits, especially the middle of the order, which we'll talk about in a moment. And you got great pitching from your daughter, JC. But the defense was solid. The base running was solid. They just did everything solid. Not spectacular, but solid. And at this time of year, solid is what decides playoff games a lot of times.
Yeah, we talk about details a lot. Like, I'll pick something out from the game before and we'll work on it the next practice. Even if it's not perfect, I tell the girls like I'm nitpicking them to death, and they might think it's like silly and minute. But at the same time, when you don't have that or it doesn't get executed, I think they see the importance of that. So we do try and preach consistency, and we try and make sure that, you know, we don't forget about some of those things you might take for granted, and we keep trying to go back to it to make sure that we're not overly confident or complacent about some of those aspects of the game.
Boy, that's a teacher in you coming out, and that's awesome because a lot of times, especially when you win, you know, the kids have the mindset of, well, we won. So, I mean, what's it matter? But when you pick out some things that didn't work out or players weren't where they were supposed to be and work on them, that won't be a situation a week, a month and a half later when it could come back to bite you.
Correct. Yeah. And we try to point those moments out too. You know, whenever you happen to work on something and then all of a sudden it happens the next game, well, you know, it works out, and you just remind them, if your hard work is the reason why this happened. And whenever we watch films, sometimes we might be watching it for a completely different purpose, but then we'll see something and point it out and be like, see, we worked on that a few weeks ago and now it's happening, or you just did this correctly. And they kind of see those results. And I think that's pretty neat to see that progress even on themselves with the video and stuff like that.
One thing I emphasized in my recap article on our website is the 2 through 5 hitters, which we talked about. Adelaide Burry, Addison Drake, Saren Hoover, Josie Cummings. Fantastic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for 12. 2 doubles, 3 doubles, 2 home runs, 5 runs scored, all 6 RBIs coming from 2 through 5, and mashing the ball. And even though they put up the big numbers, I think you were getting some solid contact consistently through the order, even with some of the outs.
Yeah. The rest of the order, it's really cool. Like they have their moments too. And even if statistically there's not something that maybe, you know, stands out on paper, sometimes when you go back, you were like, wow, she really hit that ball. It just happened to go right to somebody.
Yes.
You know, and I just tell the girls, you can't worry about that. You just got to hit the ball hard, and wherever it falls, you know?
Yep. Yeah, because you're going to check swing a ball and it's going to roll down the third base line and stay fair, and you're going to get a base hit. That's just the nature of the game. You know, you excuse me hit, and then you rip one, and you can't hit a ball harder, and it ends up in
and it goes right to somebody. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's just part of the game. The playoff performance. I don't. You know, you're going to have to reach to do some nitpicking, but a great start to what you hope is a long postseason run.
Yeah, we were definitely not taking Brentwood lightly. Not that anyone should take anyone lightly in the playoffs, but you know, you don't know what kids think when they see the seeding. You don't know what that does for them. We've always been the underdog. We've never been in the upper half of the bracket. When you finish 4th in any section, you know, you're probably not going to be the higher seed in your first round for sure. So a lot of time, and probably definitely not by the second round. So whenever we were 4th in our section with the tight section we had, and we still were in the upper 7 of that, I was like, all right, like this is our time. And then you're like, okay, what's this going to do for our team? Because we haven't been in that situation yet from a seeding perspective. So we were really happy with the girls working hard all week, coming out to be prepared, and to making sure that they just, you know, they didn't take anybody lightly, and that they adjusted. And you could see the adjustment. It took us the first time through the lineup to adjust. We kind of, in a way, thought that might happen. And then the second time around, you could just tell they were settled in a little bit better. So they were itching to get out there and play for sure.
Daughter was solid in the circle, as she has been for most of the season. Josie, her final numbers, awfully impressive. An unearned run in 7 innings pitched, only 4 hits, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. I liked your answer when I asked you about the pitch count, that she seemed to fall behind some hitters, and yet only 2 walks, and she would make the big pitches when she needed. And you kind of explained that was somewhat by design, that you have so much trust in her ability that sometimes you're not exactly calling for her to throw a strike.
Yeah, she's pretty calm whenever we call pitches. She rarely shakes us off. She has pretty much confidence with her location with her pitches. So unless she doesn't agree with maybe the type of batter that's up in something, if we call a pitch and the first pitch doesn't go where she wants it, it's usually a very narrow miss. And it doesn't really knock her off of her psyche, so to speak, for the second pitch or anything like that. So, and that's always been nice. She's just pretty much calm and steady.
Yeah.
Doesn't show a ton of emotion on the mound, even whenever it's super great or not great. She just kind of is like just a steady pillar out there.
Were you calm and steady as a player?
Okay, I'm never really calm and steady, period. If you ask any of my coaches or the players. In fact, the joke was that when we were in a really tight game here at home about a month ago, Jose was pitching. She ended up pitching 6.1 innings against Shenango. And that was a huge game for us. We knew it was going to be a big game for us throughout the section with how tight everything was going. And my resting heartbeat rate on my watch said it was 148. And I turned to Jamie, my assistant, and I said, so my watch is pulsing, saying my resting heartbeat rate's 148. And she goes, oh, look, mine's only like 90. This is the difference when your kid pitches and when your kid doesn't pitch. Because her daughter had pitched and still is a pitcher, so she understands it. But yeah, we always check that every once in a while just for a good joke on the sideline to try and break up the energy. I don't know if I'm as much nervous as just my adrenaline's pumping. Like it's just I'm a competitor.
Yeah.
And I'm into it just as much as a coach, just in a different facet as I was as a player. And I was super intense as a player. So I just feel like it's the same way as a coach. But obviously I don't want to express that to the team, right? Like over intensity as a coach can rattle some of them. So I have to internalize it. I think that's where the watch starts to go off.
But when you are playing, you mentioned that you're in a charity basketball game coming up.
Yeah, I don't even understand how I got into this. It's in 3.5 hours. I broke my ankle last summer. This is not going to go well. I don't know what I'm doing.
But you're still going to be diving for basketballs, I imagine.
Yeah, well, it's funny. My mom just called me a little bit ago, as she tends to do, because she's retired and likes to call me on my break. And she said, I can't believe you're playing in that. You're in the mid-40s now. You had a broken ankle. What are you doing? Because she knows I'm pretty intense no matter what I do. So, but I got to take it easy. We have a big game on Monday. I can't let it distract my prepping.
You can't be hopping down to third base.
Well, that's what I did last summer. I was on a knee scooter for all of travel ball, scooting around and walking in a walking boot.
How many board games? I don't know if you play board games at home with the family or whatever, but how many board games ended up getting tossed in your days, either as a young kid or as an adult?
I don't think we ever really quit. We weren't allowed to quit. You don't quit whenever you're losing.
Right.
But it doesn't mean you don't react pretty intensely whenever it's over. Yeah. For some reason, my dad always seemed to win whenever we were kids, and I never understood how. And then now we play games, and I feel like my kids win all the time. So
well, you've totally missed the bus.
I have.
You are a math teacher at Riverside, right?
Yes, 21 years.
What kind of what did you start when you were 13?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, something like that. What kind of math are we talking about?
I teach primarily freshmen and sophomores, so I'm Algebra 1 and honors geometry. So I teach the younger of the high school kids.
Wow. See, now that's where I got lost in high school. Algebra 1. I'm not a math guy. I have no idea. I took Algebra 1, geometry, and Algebra 2, and I have no idea how the teachers, I think, liked me because I retained nothing.
Okay.
So, I mean, just between us. Now, we are friends now, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So just between us, do we really need algebra and geometry in life?
I think I have found, because I know algebra, I can apply it more.
Really?
But if you don't know it, you probably wouldn't recognize when to apply it.
Oh, that's a good call.
And the geometry is hands down, to me, the most applicable. when it comes to figuring out how many yards of mulch I need for my landscaping. And like, I do the math. Now, do I think other people do the math? No, this comes into play. I don't think they realize they could do the math and maybe save a trip to the store or save a few bucks here or there. And I double check every estimate we get that comes to our house, whether it's to pour concrete or, paint a wall or stain something. And they say there's so much square footage. Like, I double check that.
Look at you.
Yeah.
So do you take like old men's paychecks at the pool table, with your geometry, and you're sitting there, you get your little T-square or whatever, and you figure out you got to be, now that's right, that geometry and pool, you should be pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know. We never grew up with a pool table or anything like that. So
really?
I don't really play billiards too much.
See, now you're not applying your trade. I mean,
no, not that one. No,
you
not
have that wisdom, man. That's you.
It's probably why I don't play the lottery, though, because I know too much about statistics
Yes.
and probability that I'm not really a gambler by any means.
Real quick, give me one instance that me as a doofus would have no idea how to apply algebra, whereas you, the brainiac, would do it and do it well, and it would pay off handsomely for it. You said because you made a great point that people who don't know don't even know when it applies. Give me a for instance.
Well, I don't know if it's as much algebra. The one example at the top of my head was figuring out the grade of our hillside and whether or not the mower that we wanted to buy would have been able to go up that hillside. Because you can figure out slope and stuff that way, and then angles from that. Wow. We live in the country, right? So there's hills. So whether you have a yard mower, a riding mower, zero turn, those things are all recommended. Some are recommended for flats, some are recommended for hills. We have a pretty nasty hill in our backyard. My husband likes to play death-defying games on the old mower all the time. So I like to figure it out if that grade is actually that grade and if it's really like suitable for that or not. Instead of just, winging it, hoping that you don't waste $6,000 on a new mower and then flip it and turn.
That's my mindset. It looks good.
You're a rebel. What do you expect, Ron?
That's right. I got to live up to the name. And we live in the suburbs, and we're surrounded by hills, including one that would be like, wow, if you saw it. But that's neither here nor there. Well, congratulations. This has been you're bringing the program back to what it once was. And I was going to mention this, 25 years of dominance for this program under Coach McCarty. And there's a reason she's in the Hall of Fame. From 1989 to when you were a little sprite. You were probably second or third grade. Yeah. To 2013. Which you were an assistant on that team?
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in that 25 years, 11 WPIAL championship game appearances and 6 WPIAL titles.
Yeah.
Amazing. Now, my final question to you is, any of those teams that you were part of, either as a player or as an assistant that won gold, would any of them been able to beat the Big Red Machine of Neshannock the last 4 years?
I've always wondered if our either 1999 team when Amy Alloy was a freshman, or the 2013 team with Kirsten Wilson as our pitcher would have been able to beat them. I think there could have been there would have been a lot of 1-0 games.
It's fun to speculate. It really is fun to speculate, especially when you're talking about two different eras. But yeah, man, that run by the Lancers over the last 4 years is
so there's a stat that Pam and Paul said our whole year in 2013 with Kirsten Wilson as our pitcher. And it is, to me, absolutely mind-blowing.
All right.
Their stat was, we never were behind in a game until the state championship game. Ever. And our defense had only allowed 8 runs total the entire year. Wow. And that is, I remember those two statistics. I'm not going to lie. I've never I've never corroborated it. I've never like dug into that. I doubt they would, fudge those.
Yeah, no, why?
It's been a long time, but that statistic, you didn't allow more than 8 runs the entire year until the state championship game. They lost 1-0, so there's 9 runs, right? And the first time they were behind the entire season. That is just so overwhelmingly powerful.
Yep.
And Neshannock's had some great runs, but I think there were a couple games here or there where they might have been down an inning, like maybe once. Or the overall number of runs scored against them might have been a little bit more than that. But just crazy dominant statistics by both teams regardless. I mean, just unbelievable talent by the girls on all of those teams.
Great little nugget you just presented. You also, when you sent me your notes, which I greatly appreciate, you called it fun facts. I want you to change that from here on in.
Okay.
What you just presented, and anytime you're putting together a bunch of things, factoids. They're factoids.
All right.
All right. And now, as a math teacher, that sounds mathematical, doesn't it?
Sure.
Hey, that's a good factoid. Yeah. So you'll use that?
I'll use it.
Okay, very good.
I have no problem using that.
All right. The team that has ended your season in 2 of the last 4 years, Chartiers Houston, is up next. What about the Buccaneers on Monday?
We know they're solid. We know that they have majority of their players are returning, but I don't know. Our team just has this relentless, like, you don't scare me and it doesn't matter type attitude. I joke around with them sometimes and say it's because they don't know better. Like they just, but I think like it comes into their preparation. Like I try and keep my kids out of the drama. I try and keep them, I don't care how many games they've won this year or how many games that they've lost the opponent. It's about you. It's about your ability, your execution on that day.
Yep.
And I don't care what their history is. It's 7 innings. And listen, I know what it's like to coach girls. Any girl can have a bad day. Any girl can have an amazing day. And it's what makes this super fun. Yep. So the girls just go out and play. They just play. Like we're not trying to, feed them a bunch of fear factor type information. We're not trying to feed them a bunch of.
But you are playing with house money.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So just relax and play your game.
Just go out and do their thing because our team definitely plays better relaxed, and they just, I don't know, they just go out and play, and it's awesome.
Use that in your Monday pregame speech. House money. You're playing with house money.
All right, so I got to use house money in my pregame speech, and I have to use factoid in my.
Whenever you're presenting, whether it's to your class, whether your mom's calling, say, "What's going on?" You're like, "Mom, I got a great factoid." Whatever the case may be, just work it into your everyday life.
All right,
and I'll check in with Josie, and I'll find out if you're doing these things.
She'll tell you. She'll tell you if I didn't, for sure.
I'm sure she will.
If you want the real truth, ask the second one, Ava. She will not hold bar against anything. She won't hold back.
She tells it like it is.
Yeah.
That's refreshing, I think. Geri Lynn Cummings, head coach of Riverside. Fun chat. Congrats on your success, the program success, getting it back to where it once was. And best of luck the rest of the way in the WPIAL playoffs.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate it. Nice talking to you.
My pleasure. Geri Lynn Cummings of Riverside, our WPIAL Diamond Team of the Week. We thank her. We thank our good friends at Edgar Snyder and Associates. We thank Chris Lackner as well, our producer extraordinaire. As we wrap up the Rebel Yell podcast on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.